This purebred Venus flytrap was bred for huge traps, fast growth, and good colors. But for every one of these, hundreds of mongrels are thrown away. But are they actually that bad? They might not have all those special traits, but can they still catch as many bugs as the purebred? Well, let's find out, starting with beetles. As we've seen before, beetles are one of the few bugs that are strong enough to escape Venus flytraps. But seeing as the purebred has such big traps, the beetle's legs might not be long enough to get through the gaps in the flytrap's teeth and pull itself free. However, our purebred completely failed to catch even one beetle, so it doesn't get any points here.
Thumbs up, let's go.
But this is when I started wondering, how much longer would the purebred hold onto a beetle if we put one into its trap? Now, even though it nearly ran across the trap before it closed, it kind of got stuck before I pushed it back in, which might mean that it isn't strong enough to escape the purebred if it gets caught properly. And while it does look like it could push its way through, the trap does start to seal, which is when it starts to digest its food alive. However, this is also when the beetle gets an advantage. You see, as the trap tightens around the beetle, it actually has something to push against to get itself free. And seeing as beetles are so insanely strong, all it needs is just one leg to get out of the trap. The thing is, those strong legs and these tiny hooks on their feet means that most beetles can climb almost anything, and a Venus flytrap is no different. As he swings his legs in the air, this guy is actually looking for something to grab onto, and this little bump on the leaf is more than enough to get a good grip. And thanks to that smooth, aerodynamic body, slowly pulling himself free becomes extremely easy as he slowly gets each leg out of the trap. And now that we know that the purebred can't catch any beetles and can only hold one back for 8.5 minutes, let's see if our mongrel can do any better. With the same amount of beetles as the purebred, our mongrel actually seems to be doing better. Not only do the beetles seem more interested, but this guy even got close enough to trigger 2 traps. However, these beetles are just too big for such a small plant, and at the end of the 10 minutes, it hadn't caught anything. Yet, we'll give it half a point for actually getting those beetles close enough to even trigger those traps. But once again, let's find out how long it can hold onto a beetle if we put one into a trap. This is when the gap in their breeding becomes obvious. The mongrel has such small traps that after a couple seconds of wriggling around, the beetle simply has to stand up and it can start pushing its head out the top of the trap. In fact, the only thing this beetle struggled to do was get its second pair of legs over the trap because there's just nothing nearby to grab onto. But after just 40 seconds, he figures out that he can push on the edge of the trap to squeeze his body through. Yet, our plants might do better with something that isn't as strong and a little bit squishy, like a cricket. This is one of the worst performances from a flytrap we have ever seen. Every time a cricket is in the perfect spot to get caught, the trap waits too long and they walk out just as the trap is about to close. This is normal though because the plants are coming out of dormancy, but it's still quite funny to see. Yet, the traps are still closing. So if this purebred can use those fancy colors or that tasty nectar to distract a cricket for long enough, it might actually catch something. And as you can see, that nectar actually is something that could distract them. And it doesn't take long for his first catch of the day. And while his second catch of the day is quite interesting, his third catch is the best. because a bully gets his karma. You see, crickets can be quite territorial, and they often fight with each other for things like food, mates, and territory. So, when this guy finds something interesting under this leaf, Smokey here decides it is his. And you can even see how he then starts walking over this trap as if it belongs to him. And while he starts checking the perimeter for any enemies in the distance, he walks under this leaf and gets distracted by their tasty nectar 1 minute before their time ran out. Now, although our purebred did pretty well here with 3 crickets, our mongrel might actually do a bit better, simply because it grows lower to the ground, where the crickets actually prefer hiding. Yet, after just a few seconds, our mongrel proves that it actually can catch something much quicker than the purebred. In fact, our mongrel actually goes 2 for 2 before its biggest issue arises. It doesn't have enough big traps to catch any more crickets. But what if it ate something smaller? Something that it eats pretty often, like a fly? Well, originally, I was going to give them each 20 minutes to catch something outside, because catching food outside is much more difficult than in a little sand arena. But 20 minutes went by, and our mongrel didn't even have one fly interested in her. So I gave her another 20 minutes because I felt bad, and still nothing. I even moved where she was hunting and left her for another 2 hours, and absolutely nothing came her way. I don't know if it's because of her colors or her nectar, but when it was the purebred's turn, he showed us a glimpse of what those traps can do when they start growing again this summer. After just a few minutes, he manages to get a pretty rare blue fly interested in one of his oldest traps. Old traps usually don't even work, let alone look good or have much nectar. But this purebred has a different plan, one that doesn't need any of that. We've seen what I like to call different strategies that each one of our fly traps use to catch their food. And the strategy our purebred is using today is perfect for an older trap like this one. By making the fly feel safe and hidden inside this trap, it can just sit around and clean itself without constantly flying off and coming back to land, which could trigger the trap early. And as it turns out, this is perfect because it doesn't matter how slow this old trap actually is, because the fly feels so safe that even if the trap does start to move around it, it won't even realize as it keeps on rubbing its paws together. While this is a very simple test between 2 completely different fly traps, it's still interesting to see how they react in similar conditions. Please send this video to someone who doesn't know about fly traps and subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next one.